Good day, everyone, and I welcome you to this session of our class. This is biology class from SciAfrika. We shall be looking at a very important aspect of biology today, and at the same time, I would enjoin everybody to sit back and enjoy our class. This class is actually scheduled for us to get the best of our revisions towards our WAEC exams. At the same time, we hope that this class will also prepare us very well for our NECO exams as well as our JAMB examination. So sit back and enjoy the class. I am your biology teacher for this session, and we shall be reviewing our 2024 biology past questions. WAEC 2024 biology past question is what we'll be reviewing in this session. So we'll be starting with the first question that we'll have in the biology exams. And what we'll have is we're supposed to list the parts of a nephron and explain their uses. As we all know that the nephron is the functional part of the kidney. Nephron can also be called, the urinary tubule, and is the functional part of the kidney. So we shall be looking at biology revision, biology, past question. Our focus today is on 2024. So the first question is asking us to list the parts of the nephron, list the parts of a nephron, and state its uses. So this is a very important part of biology and a very simple question to answer. Like I said before, the nephron is the functional part of the kidney. Nephron is the functional part of the kidney. Functional part of the kidney. The kidney is that part of the mammalian body that is used for excretion of what? Nitrogenous waste. So we have the kidney has a functional part called nephron, which can also be called the urinary tubule. Urinary tubule. This is the other name for nephron, and it helps to filter the blood to remove nitrogenous waste. So we're supposed to mention the part of the kidney that actually makes it to perform its function. One of the parts that is very important in the nephron is number one, the glomerulus. The glomerulus is a very important part of the kidney, and the nephron, glomerulus. We also have another very important part, which we call the Bowman's capsule. The Bowman's capsule. The Bowman's capsule. These are very important. Bowman's capsule. We also have the other parts that we call the proximal convoluted tubule. Proximal convoluted tubule. Proximal convoluted tubule. We also have the distal convoluted tubule. Distal convoluted tubule. When we're answering these questions, we should be very careful because this is WAEC questions, and there are do's and don'ts, and there are things that WAEC also watches out for. So we must mention the salient points so that we can get the accurate marks. So we shall begin to mention the functions of each of these parts of the nephron. Like I have here, the glomerulus is the first one I mentioned here. What does it do? It helps to carry out ultrafiltration and filters the blood passing through it. Carries out ultrafiltration. Carries out ultrafiltration. Or you can also say this is the B part, you can say it filters the blood. It filters blood passing through it. So any of this one is correct. We can either say it carries out ultrafiltration, or we can actually mention the meaning of ultrafiltration by saying filtering the blood passing through it. Any of these two is a good point for the function of the glomerulus. Like we know, if the function of the nephron is to remove the excess waste, the waste in the blood. So one of the parts of that nephron is the glomerulus. It helps to carry out ultrafiltration. What this means is that, as the name implies, ultrafiltration, whatever is going to the kidney contains some particles that are also used for the body. For example, glucose is good for the body. Proteins, amino acids, and vitamins are also good for the body. So those ones that are also good for the body should not be taken out of the body. So in that case, the Bowman's capsule, the glomerulus helps to filter, helps to remove those that are still useful for the body, and it passes them back to the body for use. And those products that are not useful for the body are taken out through the glomerulus. So in that case, that organ does the function of filtering the blood, so that we don't get to lose glucose and other useful products out of the body. So that is why there has to be It has to be a check and balance at that point. So that's the function of the glomerulus. We shall move on to the next one, which is the Bowman's capsule. As the name implies, the Bowman's capsule is like a bowl. So what it does is that it helps to collect the filtrates from the glomerulus. So whatever the glomerulus filters enters the bowl. That bowl structure, the bowl-like structure, is what collects the filtrates from the glomerulus. So they work hand in hand. The glomerulus now continues into the Bowman's capsule, because whatever is being filtered, it enters the Bowman's capsule for excretion out of the body, and the useful ones are returned back into the body circulation. So that is what we need to understand at this point. From the glomerulus, which is just like a mass of blood capillaries, the filtered blood enters the Bowman's capsule. So that's what happens. So this filtrate that we've talked about, it enters the Bowman's capsule, and it now continues down into the other part of the nephron. So we shall write down the function of the Bowman's capsule by saying it collects filtrates. Filtrate is a substance being filtered out of the glomerulus. Collects filtrates from the glomerulus. So this is what we'll have for Bowman's capsule. So we shall move to the next part, the proximal convoluted tubules. Actually, the nephron, which is also called the urinary tubule, has two big tubules. The first one is the proximal convoluted tubule, while the other one is called the distal convoluted tubule. Those tubules are actually coiled. They are coiled tubes. So they are called convoluted because they are coiled. So the proximal one is the one just after we leave the Bowman's capsule, we have the proximal part. So after the loop of Henle, going down the collecting dot, we have the distal part of the tubule. So the first one is the proximal, while the other tubule is called the distal convoluted tubules. Both of them work hand in hand. So actually, I will explain to us now the function of the proximal convoluted tubule. So what it does is that it carries out selective reabsorption, or we can say it reabsorbs certain nutrients like amino acids and vitamins. What this means is that, whatever enters the glomerulus is actually very small. The glomerulus is actually one cell thick. It's one cell thick. So any substance that's able to enter the glomerulus is a small substance. At the same time, small substances like glucose and vitamins are actually still useful for the body. They're able to go through the glomerulus, they enter Bowman's capsule, but the body still needs them. The body does not want to get rid of them. In that case, they have to be sent back into the body circulation. What I'm trying to explain here is that the glomerulus allows substances that are one cell thick to pass through it because it's just one cell thick. In that case, vitamins that are small can pass through, glucose can pass through, water molecules can pass through, urea can also pass through. So these substances are able to pass through the one cell thick wall of the glomerulus into the Bowman's capsule. And by indication, they get to the proximal tubule. At that proximal tubule, those ones that are still useful for the body have to be sent back into the body because we don't want to excrete them. We don't want to get rid of them. The body still needs them. So the body still wants to use water. The body wants to use glucose. The body also wants to use vitamins that are essential. So those ones have to be sent back into the body to prevent wastage. So in that case, it is the duty of the proximal tubule to do a selective reabsorption process so that it can reabsorb certain nutrients that have escaped the one cell thick wall of the glomerulus into the proximal tubule. So they have to be sent back into the body. So we have a selective reabsorption process going down or occurring at the proximal tubule. So I will write it at this point. I will say the proximal tubule helps to do what? It helps to carry out selective reabsorption. Selective reabsorption. Or we can also say it helps to reabsorb substances. For example, vitamins back into the body. It helps to reabsorb substances back into the body. For example, vitamins. So let's go down to the next part of the urinary tubule that we'll call the distal convoluted tubule. It's a coiled tubule. Distal convoluted tubule. This is just after the loop of Henle. We have the distal convoluted tubule. What it does is to cause tubular secretion, or it can also cause the secretion of molecules and ions, and it also reabsorb water. So we shall write down each of the functions of the distal convoluted tubule. The first one is that it causes what? It causes tubular secretion. It causes tubular secretion. The other one that is done by a distal convoluted tubule is that it helps to secrete molecules. It helps in the secretion of molecules or ions, secretion of molecules or ions. Another function that is done by the distal convoluted tubule is the reabsorption of water. It also reabsorbs a certain amount of water back into the body. Reabsorption of water. So the distal convoluted tubule helps to cause tubular secretion. What this means is that at the distal tubule, some hormones are actually secreted back into the nephron. Those hormones help to maintain the osmoregulation. They help with osmoregulation, the water and salt balance. So in that case, the distal tubule cause those processes to occur in the nephron so that there will be a good osmotic balance within the body system. At the same time, ions are also secreted courtesy of the function of the distal tubule. It also does some stimulation to ensure that hormones are secreted and ions are also secreted. Another thing it does is to ensure that water is reabsorbed, just like we have in the proximal tubule. The distal tubule also does some level of water reabsorption back into the body. So these are the functions of some parts of the boma of the urinary tubule or nephron. Like I said, the nephron is a functional part of the kidney. It has some parts like glomerulus. It has the proximal convoluted tubule. It has the distal convoluted tubule. It also has the Henle's loop or the loop of Henle. It has the Henle's loop. It has the Henle's loop. Some person call it loop of Henle. That's another part of the urinary tubule. So these are the parts we have for now. Let's go on to the second question that was asked by WAEC 2024 biology. There's a table. I was supposed to complete the table. The table has some options. I'll be writing the table right here so that we can all see it. The B part of the question is saying table. Then we'll have, the table says we have organisms. We have the structure structure for excretion. We also have form in which waste is excreted by organism. Form in which waste is excreted. So we're supposed to complete this table. We're supposed to complete this table that is given to us by WAEC. So we shall be answering the questions one after the other. So we have, they gave us contractile vacuum. We also have, this is for number 1. For number 2, we'll have flatworm. For number 3, we'll have earthworm. We have the earthworm as number 3. And number 4, what they gave to us is what? Is cockroach. Cockroach. The next one we'll have is human beings. Human. And the last one we'll have here on the table is stomatal pore. Stomatal pore was given as the structure for excretion. Stomatal pore. So we shall now complete the table that we have here. This is a question that was asked by WAEC in the year 2024. So that's what we're trying to review, to explain each of them to us in case we get to see them, so that we know how to answer the questions. So we have the first one unanswered down to the 6th one. So what organism uses contractile vacuole for excretion? We're supposed to answer that. And we need to also mention the form in which the waste is excreted by the organism involved. So we shall answer that question. Organisms that use contractile vacuole for excretion are usually those that have one cell. Unicellular organisms use contractile vacuole for excretion. A bunch of them use that for excretion. So we can actually write any of them in this box of organism for contractile vacuole. Human beings don't use contractile vacuole. At the same time, cockroaches don't use contractile vacuole because they are multicellular. Only those that have one cell use contractile vacuole for excretion. So we have many of them. We can either write amoeba. As our answer. We could also write paramecium. We can also go for Euglena. Any of those three are possible answers for that option. Now let's go down to what form is the waste excreted by the organism. Is it in liquid form, gaseous form, or what? Or solid form? So this is the next one we need to answer. And the answer to that question is what? Is they excrete their waste in either gaseous or liquid form. Any of this is a go for that question. Either gaseous or liquid form is how they excrete their waste products. So let's go down to the next one, flatworms. What do flatworms use for excretion? Before we go to that, I believe we all understand flatworms. Flatworms are members of the phylum Platyhelminthes. Phylum Platyhelminthes, they are actually invertebrate. They don't have bones. And they are members of phylum Platyhelminthes because they have a flattened body. So they are called flatworms. For example, we have a tapeworm, is a flatworm. That's one very common example of flatworm. A tapeworm. Liver fluke is also a flatworm. And planaria. Those three are flatworms. So they use what structure for excretion? The answer to that question is what? Is flame cell. They use flame cell for excretion. Flame cell is what flatworms use for excretion. And what form is the waste excreted? The waste is in liquid form. Waste is given out in liquid form. So that is that for that question. We go down to the next one, earthworm. Earthworm have a structure they use for excretion, which we call nephridium. Nephridium is singular or nephridia is plural. Nephridia, we can either mention nephridium or nephridia. Any of these two is correct. nephridium or nephridia, and they also excrete what liquid waste. They excrete liquid waste. So the nephridium is designed to excrete liquid waste. So let's go down to cockroach. Cockroaches use a structure called Malpighian tubule. Malpighian tubule. Malpighian tubule. Malpighian tubule. For the sake of the WAEC examination, we advise students to spell correctly because WAEC is actually bent on you spelling those terms in biology correctly. For example, I have seen textbooks that spell Malpighian wrongly by putting H after the P. They spell Malph, which is actually wrong. If that is spelled, then it should be marked wrong by WAEC examiners. So we should be mindful of how we spell our words in biology because wrong spellings would warrant no score. So Malpighian is Pig, not Phig. So Malpighian tubule is used by cockroaches, and the cockroaches also excrete solid waste. For those of us who have seen the waste of cockroaches before in our house, we will observe that they are usually black and tiny, and they are solid. These are the kind of waste that cockroaches will excrete, solid waste. So they excrete solid waste. So we also have human beings. Human beings have a couple of structures for excretion. We use our skin. We can use our skin for excretion. For example, the skin excretes sweat. We can use our kidney for excretion. Kidney excretes urea in the form of urine. We also have our lungs. Lungs excrete carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is what the lungs excrete. So these are the structures for excretion in human beings. And all these structures that the lungs excrete and what the skin, kidney, and the legs, they excrete liquid waste. Liquid, in form of liquid. So we shall go down to the next one, which is the stomatal pore is a structure, but we're not giving the organism that actually gives out this, actually uses the stomatal pore for excretion. So what we have as the answer to that question is green plants or plants. Green plants. Or you can just say plants. Plants use stomatal pore for excretion, and they use what? The waste is in form of what? Gaseous waste. So we can call it gaseous or we can call it gas. Any of these two is correct. And for each of these questions, WAEC has made it compulsory that spellings must be correct to score. So it means that the wrong spelling warrants what? A no mark to that question. So we need to be careful of our spellings when we're dealing with biology. So the next question will be treating, that's the C part of number 1. The C part of number 1 is telling us to mention the excretory products of plants. Excretory products of plants. What this is trying to say is that we should mention those products that plants usually give out as excretory products. Number 1, plants, we have the excretory products of plants. These are the products that plants give out during excretion. The first one we'll treat is oxygen. Plants give out oxygen during excretion. They also give out carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. Plants also give out oxalic acids. Oxalic acid. They give out cocaine. Number 5, they give out tannins. Tannins. Plants also give out gum. They give out latex during excretion. Depending on the plant, some plants actually give out a couple of these, but not all of them are given out by the same plant. Some plants give out gum, latex, and some gases. Some other plants have other structures they give out, like the cocaine and other products that they give out during excretion. So we have resin, we have oils. Some plants give out oils during excretion. Although the oils are also very important, they are important for humans, but for them, it's an excretory product. We also have water as part of the excretory product. These are a couple of products that plants give out. Before we leave number one, I will do a rundown again before we go to number two. This is WAEC 2024 biology past question, and we've answered number one question completely. We've listed the parts of a nephron and we have stated the uses of each of the parts. We also went down to complete a table of organisms and the structures they use for excretion. At the same time, the form in which the excretion is done, either liquid, solid, or gaseous form. We've also attended to the question on excretory products of plants, which I've listed from 1 to 10 in this session. We shall now move down to the question number 2. The number 2 question is a very technical question, and we need to be very careful in answering this question so that we can do it well the way it is required. It goes like this. An individual ate a hot and large meal of cassava with salty groundnut soup. The individual was sweating profusely and did not drink water after the meal. I repeat, an individual ate a hot and large meal of cassava with salty groundnut soup. The individual was sweating profusely and did not drink water after his meal. State one role each played by the following organs involved in the activity above. What this is trying to say is that we had an individual that ate cassava. Cassava could be gari, it could be any product from cassava, but what we need to know here is that it's starchy food with salty groundnut soup. The soup is actually salty, that is, it contains a high level of salt concentration. At the same time, the individual did not take in water to actually dilute the salt content. So the body has to do a lot of excretion, and the body is trying to test our knowledge of digestion and excretion in this process. So we're supposed to state the role of each of the organs that we have here and the role they played in that process of digesting the food and also excreting the excess salt taken by the individual. So we need to start one after the other. So we'll write number 2, roles played by the organs involved. Whenever we eat any food, the function of the mouth is to help to secrete saliva, which contains ptyalin. So the mouth contains what? It helps to secrete saliva that has ptyalin for digesting carbohydrates. We also have the function of the mouth as having the teeth for masticating the food. We also have the fact that the mouth has saliva that moistens the food. So what we need to write here are the structures we have in the mouth that help to digest the food. Number 1, we have what role is played by the mouth. Number 1, the mouth contains salivary glands, which secretes saliva, which contains ptyalin. Ptyalin is an enzyme that helps to digest cooked starch, changing it into maltose. So we have ptyalin, or we can also call it salivary amylase. Salivary amylase is also ptyalin. Salivary amylase for digestion of cassava. Digestion of the cassava meal. So this is a very good way of answering the question. We'd also say the mouth contains teeth. Contains teeth for mastication. Contains teeth for mastication or grinding of the food. grinding of the food. We could also write that the mouth contains saliva that moistens the food. Mouth contains saliva that helps to moisten the food. Moistens the food. Or soften the food. Any one of them is correct. We also write that the mouth contains tongue. So this is basically writing the structures we have in the mouth that help to digest the food. Contains the tongue for rolling the food into a bolus. For rolling the food. So these are possible answers to that question. Now we'll have the next question, which is the skin. What does the skin do? What role does the skin play in this process of digestion and excretion? Number one, the skin helps to excrete sweat. Now, since the individual ate a hot bowl, the food is hot, it means the body is gaining heat. So the body has to push out the excess heat. The skin helps to push out the excess heat gained by the body, courtesy of the hot meal eaten by the individual. Excretes sweat. Excretes sweat or controls body temperature. Controls body temperature. We can also write that the skin helps to excrete salt. Since the individual ate a salty granite soup, so the skin could help us to remove the excess salt in order to maintain osmoregulation. Excretes excess salt. Excess salt. Or we can also say it helps to eliminate excretory waste. Any of these two is correct. So we'll have that for the skin. And let's go down to the next one. What role is played by the tongue in that process? The tongue, what does it do in that process? We'll have number one, the tongue helps to taste the food. Since the tongue has taste buds, it helps to taste the food. It helps to taste the food so that we can know that the food is what? The food is salty. Also, the tongue also helps to roll the food into a bolus. Rolls the food into bolus that is being swallowed. The tongue also helps to push the food into the gullet. Pushes the food into the gullet. Then let's go down to the next structure, the next organ, which is the kidney. What role is played by the kidney in this process after the person has taken the food? What does the kidney do? We have number one, the kidney helps to excrete excess salt from the body. Since the food is salty, also it carries out osmoregulation. We can also write that it carries out osmoregulation, that is maintaining salt and water balance. Osmoregulation. We can also say that the kidney helps to reabsorb water. So these are the functions the kidney would play in that process. Then the next organ we shall be talking about that will be playing a role in that digestion is the stomach. The stomach. What role is played by the stomach in that process? Number one is that the stomach helps to store the food temporarily. So we have temporary storage of food. Temporary storage of food. We could also write that the stomach helps to churn the food. Churning of food. as a movement of food in the stomach, the churning movement, churning or grinding movement of the food, churning of food and turning it into chyme or chyme. It helps to turn the food into chyme through that churning movement. The stomach also helps to secrete dilute hydrochloric acid. Secretes dilute hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid, which kills bacteria, and also neutralizes the action of taurine. So we have number 4, the stomach also has the gastric juice. It has the gastric juice. The gastric juice in the stomach contains the enzyme pepsin, which converts proteins to peptones. So in the food taken by the individual, there are some protein molecules there. Those protein molecules they are changed to peptones through the action of pepsin. So these are the structures we have in the body, and these are the roles they play in digesting the food after it has been taken. Peptones we have here, proteins to peptones. So let's go on to the next organ, which is the small intestine. The small intestine is the next one. What role is played by the small intestine during digestion of the food? Small intestine. The first role we have here is that the small intestine helps, digestion is completed in the small intestine. It helps to complete the digestion. Digestion is completed in the small intestine. So that food that was taken by the individual is what is being broken down and completed in the small intestine. Number 2, we could also write that the small intestine contains maltase. Maltase which converts maltose to glucose. The small intestine has maltase, which converts maltose to glucose. The other one, which could be a function of the small intestine, is that it has erepsin. It contains erepsin. The erepsin in the small intestine helps to convert polypeptides to amino acid. It contains erepsin. Erepsin is an enzyme. Maltase is also an enzyme. Both of them are found in the what? They are secreted into the small intestine. They are found in the pancreatic juice, so they enter the small intestine for digestion. So we have the erepsin converting the polypeptides to amino acids. We also have lipase. Lipase is also one of the enzymes that are secreted into the small intestine from the pancreatic juice. It contains lipase, which converts fat and oil to glycerol. Fat and oil to what? To glycerol and fatty acid. Fat and oil are changed to glycerol and fatty acids. Let's now go down to the function of the large intestine. What role is played by large intestine after the person has eaten the food? Large intestine is the next organ we have here. Based on what WAEC has given us, we are supposed to explain what role is played by large intestine after this individual has taken that cassava food and hot groundnut soup. So we have number one, large intestine helps to receive the undigested food. It receives the undigested food. It receives the undigested food. We'll also have that the large intestine absorbs water from undigested food. It absorbs water from undigested food. We also have the large intestine helps to move waste to the rectum. As feces for removal through the anus. So these are the functions that are played by the large intestine in that process of digestion of the food eaten by that individual. We also have the next structure being the liver. What role does the liver play in the process of removing the waste and digesting the food? The liver plays a huge role when it comes to removal of waste. Number one, it helps to deaminate excess amino acid. It helps to deaminate excess amino acid. The body does not store excess amino acid or excess protein, so the excess protein has to be removed out of the body through a deamination process in the liver and later excretion process in the kidney. So these are the stages of amino acid removal in the body. It first undergoes deamination in the liver, then it undergoes excretion in the kidney. Because excess amino acid is not stored in the body, unlike excess glucose, which is stored in the liver and muscle as glycogen, the excess amino acid is not stored, unlike what? Unlike that of excess glucose. So we have it deaminated in the liver. At the same time, liver also plays another role, which is production of bile. Production of bile for emulsification of fats. For emulsification of fats. The liver also helps to convert excess glucose to glycogen for storage. Converts excess glucose to glycogen for storage. The liver could also help us. Part of the question, we can also say the liver helps to detoxify toxic substances that the person has swallowed unintentionally. So it helps to detoxify, to remove excess waste, detoxifies the toxic substances. It makes them less toxic, so it does not harm the body after consumption. Excess substances is being detoxified, or toxic substances they are being neutralized by the liver to keep the person alive. We're done with number 2A. Number 2B is asking us to list the organs that would contain enzyme needed to break down the food. Out of these organs we have mentioned, the organs we've mentioned here, and we have stated their uses or their functions, we need to now mention the organs that would contain enzyme needed to break down the food. So we have question 2B, organs that would contain enzymes needed to break down the food. So out of these organs we have listed, we have the ones that contain enzyme. Number one, we have the mouth. The mouth contains ptyalin. Or we can call it salivary amylase. The small intestine has pepsin. No, the small intestine, the stomach has pepsin. The stomach has pepsin, and the small intestine has the enzymes. It has lipase. The small intestine has lipase. It has erepsin for digestion of food. So we have the mouth, the stomach, and the small intestine are the organs that contain enzymes that help to break down the food. So the question 2C is the next one. This is WAEC Past Question, Biology 2024. We are supposed to mention the digestive enzymes that would be involved in the digestion. Digestive enzymes that would be involved in the digestion. We'll have number one, ptyalin. We can also call it salivary amylase. Salivary amylase. From saliva, salivary amylase. Number two, we have amylase. We can call it pancreatic amylase. This one is found in the small intestine and secreted by the pancreas. Pancreatic amylase. Pancreatic amylase. We also have an enzyme called lipase. We have lipase playing a role in that digestion, and we have the protease. Protease enzymes also help in playing a role in that food digestion. So the next question is number 2D. 2D is asking us to state the end product of the meal after digestion. After the individual must have eaten the hot cassava food with the granite soup that is salty. What are the end products of that meal digestion? End products of the meal after digestion. Since the food contains carbohydrates and some other food substrates, we would expect that we'll have more than one end product. So the first one we'll have as our end product is the glucose from the cassava. Glucose, and we have the granite soup will contain fatty acid. The fatty acid on glycerol, and of course, we would expect that the food will also contain some protein, and if not, the fat and oil, the oil also contains some level of amino acids from proteins. So we have glucose, fatty acid, or glycerol, and we have the amino acids as the end product of the meal digestion. So the next one we need to answer is question 2E. Question 2E also has two parts. So the first one is 2EI. The 2EI, that's the first part of the 2E, is asking us to state the effect of the excess salt in the individual. As we know that the excess salt is not is not good for the body. When the salt is too much in the body, it's actually not good. So the effects of the excess salt, we usually encourage people to take enough water after meal so as to neutralize the effect of the excess salt they've taken to maintain good osmotic balance. So since this individual has taken a groundnut soup without drinking water, we would expect that that individual will have what? Excess salt in his bloodstream. So effect of the excess salt, number one, is it enlarges the heart muscle. Enlarges the heart muscle. It enlarges the heart muscles. Number two, it causes headache. It could cause headache. Could cause headache to the individual. It could be a cause of heart failure. Could be a cause of heart failure. Number four, could cause high blood pressure. High blood pressure. High blood pressure can arise as a result of this excess salt. Could also have kidney stone. Kidney stone. Quality of the or accumulation of the excess salt the person has taken. Kidney stone or kidney disease. We could also have osteoporosis. Osteoporosis in the individual. That individual could also have stomach cancer. Stomach cancer. Since the person did not take in water, the person could have dehydration, and possibly could have stroke. These are the possible effects of the excess salt taken by the individual. So we shall go on to the 2II, that's question 2E, II. This is asking us to say the advantages that the individual derives from the meal. Advantages that the individual derived from the meal. Even though the meal is a hot one and it was a salty food without taking water, there are still some benefits that the body will derive from the meal. So number one, it helps to improve energy and mood. It improves energy. After taking the meal, the individual will have some energy and will also have a mood change positively because of what? Of food intake. Energy and mood. Number two, it helps to improve digestion. Number three, it prevents cancer. Number four, helps in growth. It helps in growth or repair of worn out tissues. These are the benefits of the food substrates we have in the food, carbohydrate and protein and the likes. So we need to mention the benefit of those food substrates. Growth and repair of worn out tissues in the body, quality of the protein in the food. We also have helps to promote skin and nail health. Promote skin or nail health. Quality of the oil in the food gives the person an oily body and a shiny skin. So these are the advantages we have in the meal taken by that individual. Let's do a summary of question 2. For question 2, we've treated a number of questions, a number of problems in question 2. The first question we treated in this question 2 is that we actually mentioned the organs involved in digesting and eliminating of waste in a person that has taken a hot cassava meal with salty groundnut soup. We mentioned the role played by the mouth in digestion. We mentioned that of the skin. We mentioned the tongue's role, kidney, stomach, small intestine. We also mentioned the large intestine and the liver, and we explained what they do in that process. Later, we went down to the organs that would contain enzymes among the ones we have listed above. At the same time, we treated the digestive enzymes that would be involved in the digestion process. We also went ahead to mention the end product of the meal after it had been broken down in the body. We now lastly did number 2E, which covered the effects of the excess salt as well as the advantages that the food has on the individual. With this we have answered the whole of question 1 and question 2 of the WAEC Past Questions 2024 Biology. So we shall continue with the other past questions in our next episode. Thank you for staying tuned. And if you have any questions, do well to drop it down at the comment section so that we can attend to your questions. Thank you very much and have a nice day. This is from SciAfrika. SciAfrika Thank you very much.